back in our lives. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello. How is everybody? How are you guys?
Oh, we're great. We're great. Today we are having a new guest, and I guess we need to introduce ourselves, right? So I'm Monica Blaisdell, and I am with Ideal Brands, and then we have Jadira. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Yadira with Las Vegas Fence Company in Las Vegas, and also obviously Fence Workers Association.
Yes. And then today we have a special guest, and it is. We're going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, thank you guys for having me on. My name is Jason Smith, and I'm the owner of Lee Laren Fence, the fence company with the weird name. Everyone says, "How do you pronounce that name?" That's Lee Laren. They're like, "Oh, is that your last name?" No, it's not. Is that French? No, it's not. That is a conglomerate of all my kids' middle names pushed together to create a name that is meaningful and memorable to us, and not necessarily Smith Fencing or JS Fencing or Jason Fencing or something like that. So something along those lines. We want it, and it very much resembles and sounds like McLaren, which is a high-end sports car that I really like. So Lee Laren was perfect. It's great.
There you go.
My kids' middle names all put together.
So
Yeah, I
does
was
that
gonna
mean
go-
you would have to change the name if you have another child?
No, absolutely not. They would have something in there. So it's Lee for I have my son's name is Lee. His middle name is Lee. My daughter's middle name is Lara, which is also my wife's family's name. And
Okay.
my wife and my 8-year-old granddaughter, their middle names are Renee. So we kind of jammed all those together, and that's when we came up with Lee Laren.
I
So,
love it.
and I can't have any more children, so um, that's hopefully that's not in the books at this point in time in my life. Maybe
So
some
if
grandbabies. Maybe some grandbabies.
maybe some grandbabies.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was gonna go ahead and have you do that story because I love that how you went ahead and composed all those names together to go ahead and come up with that name. So I'm glad that you went ahead and told us about that. So the reason that I invited Jason to go ahead and be on our live today is because one day I overheard him, right? He talking about this community thing that he did. And I was just so amazed by it. I was taken back. And I think this was about maybe 2 years ago already, Jason, that I last heard you say about this story. Um, so I was so intrigued. And when they said, "Hey, we're going to do lives," I'm like, "Oh, I know exactly who I want to have on here."
um,
So, um,
no, now Monica, it's not. Sorry to cut you off, but are you referring to the little league that naming the ball field and everything? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. So before we go into that story, we want people to go ahead and hang on for that story, right? So can you tell us a little bit about your company? I know that you are in Valparaiso, and so
Yes.
that's really cold out there. I mean, that's colder than here, up here in Coconut.
Yeah, yeah. So the company's based out of I basically like a lot of like fence companies. We started out of my garage, started out of the garage, and really we felt a necessity, a need for fencing. One of the things that we find in this industry is trying to get somebody on the other lines, or trying to get somebody to answer the phone. And residential fencing is it's a shame, but it's so that's one of the things. And one of the things that we've done is that on our sleeves we said that's a ghost that says we won't ghost you. You call us, we'll answer, and we're gonna return your call. May not like what you're gonna get if we return the call. You may not like the price or what we're getting, but we will follow up and we will return the call. So we won't ghost you. But that's where we just seen a need in our area that the gentleman that kind of got me into fencing, when we were talking about starting a business, my background is sales. So it was kind of easy for me to transition and talk to people and go into clients' homes. I didn't have a fear of trying to sell myself or a product or a service. And when I met with this gentleman, he pulled his phone out and I said, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Well, who are all?" And he goes, "Those are all missed calls." And
Oh,
I'm like, "Missed?" And I said, "How many have you talked to?" He goes, "Well, I just woke up at noon, and so I haven't had a chance to call anybody." And I'm like, oh boy. don't let someone that, I don't consider myself to be this, this big savage, but I'm gonna get you on the phone. I have a ghost that says I won't ghost you. I'll call you at least. And believe it or not, some of the first few calls that I made, people were like, "You answer the phone, whatever it is, you got the job. I don't care what your price is." I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I win. I'm the winner, and so the fence company was started at that time.
Yeah.
Amazing. That is super amazing. And I love the fact that you are trying to get to all those calls because nowadays it's BAs or you got it programmed or something. So yeah, people love that interaction, that one-on-one interaction.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is what brings me to your community, right? Because you are very in tune with your community. So, and I love that. One of the questions that I wanted to ask is what inspired you to start your fencing business and how did you get into the fence? So you said that this was a guy that went ahead and showed you how many calls was he missing? So is this really what started you into your community or was it something in the community that you're like, you know what, there is a need and I need to go ahead and fill it?
So when COVID, my background was sales. I
Mhm.
started looking into bettering myself as a salesperson, and so when COVID hit, I was basically let go from my sales position because that's the first thing they kind of cut back. Big companies, they cut back on sales, and as I'm sitting there, I belong to different masterminds. And one of my guys from the mastermind that I was friends with, he calls me and says, "Jason, I can see you running your own business." I said, "Yeah, I would love to." And he was like, "Man, you ever think about like dent repair?" Or so he goes, "I can see you stand in front of a bunch of guys and treating people the way you want to be treated and really telling them thank you and I'm like, "Oh," I said, I do enjoy. I've always enjoyed looking back and saying, well, putting my name to that, right? Put my
Right.
stamp of approval on that job and saying that I did that. Um, Growing up as a kid, there was no we didn't hire carpenters or mechanics or plumbers. We were the carpenters, the plumbers, the mechanics. We
Yeah.
were, that's just what we did. So going into fencing, you don't need a whole lot of tools for fencing, but you need the right tools and the right technology and the right training to be really good and efficient at it and
Yeah.
to understand it. So
Definitely.
I always look to seek out those things.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of how we got, this one gentleman says, and during this time that here I am sitting in my garage thinking, okay, what's the next step?
Right.
And this kind of leads me to my wife, in my area, the steel mills are really big in my area. That's what I've known. That's what I was, because I was a salesman for the steel mills. And my wife says, "You're not going back. This is your time to do what you want to do, which is you want to run your own business." And,
I
and
love
not and not having my wife standing behind me telling me, "Honey, we're going to make it. We're fine. It's time for you to go do what you're going to do." And yes, absolutely. I have to attribute that to her
that.
100%. And believe it or not, it was her family member that owned a fence company that called me and said, "Hey, why don't you run a fence crew?" And I said, "Well, that's not really me." I said, "I'm more of, behind the scenes. I'm more of the back office, not the front office."
Right.
And he said, "Well, why don't you come over to the house and we'll discuss you running my company?" And I don't know if I kind of led into it a little bit, but he says that he wakes up at noon, and I'm like, I'm wide, 5:30 in the morning. My eyes are, especially now. And, so he finally said, "Well, you should just start your own business." I said, "Wait a minute. Well, let's go talk about it." And when he showed me the calls and he had no marketing, all he had was a basic website. That was it.
Wow.
And yes. And I mean, this is like a Google website that you create on your own. It wasn't even a one that you can, a Wix. It wasn't even, and and I had already been in a mastermind that learned, that taught you, that really utilizing social media, being part of, right, utilizing social media in the correct way. No
Yeah.
one really, cares about your political beliefs and your,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So, I always stuck to that. And it was and I'm telling you, it was that. And then when the phone rings, answer the darn phone. I mean,
You'll get the job.
yes.
That is
And my,
super.
and my mentor in the fencing industry, I praise him all the time, and I'd hate to tell you where he's at now, because he's struggling. He's struggling, and I mean, well, when you get out of bed at noon, I mean, the day's half, it's over half gone.
It's gone.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The early bird gets the worm, right? That is
Mhm.
very true. I agree.
Yes.
So, 5 o'clock in the morning, people say, like you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And if you do that, if you wake up early, you have so much more time in the evening time. So,
Sure.
yes, I agree
Yeah.
with you 100%. And pick up that phone, right?
Pick up the phone.
No matter what time it is. Yes.
Yes. Answer the leads.
Yes.
Yes. Answer the leads.
So another question that I had is, I want to see if you can tell us about what was your first community project. So once you went ahead and started answering those phones, but what was your first community project?
Yeah. So really, I've always tried to, want to give back, right? If it, and when you first start out, it's really difficult to give back because you're really trying to plow everything back into the business, and you're upgrading, your tools and your equipment and your vehicles, and so it's really tough. But I really wanted to do anything I can, and not necessarily to make a name, but just to help, right? To be there. And it just so happened, one of the things that we're really, another mentor of mine, him and I were on a Little League board of directors, and I seen what he did on just helping because I knew, right? And I spent 40 hours a week after my side, as a side job, at the Little League, and I knew that what came into it. And just so happened, a local Little League called and said, hey, I see you have a fence company. The fence company we deal with, guess what? They won't answer the phone anymore. When we call and we need help. And it's small projects. It was really small projects. Can we take a look at this? And I said, yeah, let me come take a look at it. And I said, what? And then he said, well, I got this T-ball field that we're looking to do. I'd never done a T-ball field. I didn't even, I didn't know much about a T-ball field. But I said, wait a minute. I spent hours down at the Little League as a board member. I'm pretty sure we can figure this out. So I said, so I told him, I said, I can't afford to do it for free. I said, but if you buy the material, I'll come out and put it. I said, this is the first ball field we're going to do. I'll pay the guys to do it, and I'll be out here and we'll do it. As long as it's, as long as we don't need, 72-foot tall backstops, it's a T-ball field. And we went out there and did it. And this is what we worked out. He said, for pay, he goes, how about we name the field after you?
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
And I said, wait. And I'm a guy, so I mean, it's feel pretty proud. I got a baseball field named after us. So
Yeah, I love that story. How
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Yes. So that was definitely the Little League, and that, my heart was with the Little League because I spent so much time down there, at our local Little League. So yeah, that was definitely the first project we did. And we did that to, and I mean, and every year since that, they call me and they don't ask me to do it for free. And I know how much, cause everyone down there, and if you've been involved in any kind of, curricular thing like that, that these people don't get paid. I mean, it's all based off of, volunteer. Yeah. And I know that. So that's what, and I said, listen, we're going to volunteer ourselves too. That's what's going to happen. I said, but somebody have to pay for the material.
That's what one of my question was going to be, is how do you balance, making a profit on the job and, having that filling that purpose in your community. So by having them pay for the materials, and you putting in the labor, I guess that's kind of where the balance comes in.
It is. Well, and I look at it as that's advertisement, right? And I wasn't expecting. I asked them was if you could just put a sign for, because that's what they offer, right? I mean, you can do a $400 donation, and they put a sign out there for the year. But they just said, hey, listen, here's what we'll do. How about we just name the field after you? And I was like, I got a baseball field named after me. It is a T-ball field, so it's not that.
Yeah.
It's still a baseball field. I mean, T-ball or so that's still marketing, right? So do you
Yes.
get any leads off of that because you've been doing community?
Yeah, that's one thing that because believe it or not, there, we have such a great reputation in the area. Now we don't really ask. We have so many leads coming in that we don't and that's one of the ways we do need to capture that a little bit better. Through our CRM and through the website we capture it, but phone calls coming in, we don't necessarily capture that real well. So that's a good thing to do is to ask, hey, how'd you find us?
Yeah.
Right.
Because we love our referrals. We love our referrals.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, that's one of the things that I am constantly on James. I'm like, where did they hear from us? Is it Google? Is it Facebook? Where did they hear from us? But a baseball field, I'm thinking that's probably where you're getting all your leads from for that baseball field. So.
Well, you got there's 300 to 400 kids down there that there's two and then they have competing teams that come in, and so yeah, they're and then when the board of directors says, well, hey, that's great, you guys got a new field and it's dedicated to our company, that that's free advertisement, right? And they and every year they call us again. They call us every year to maintain and upgrade their fields every year.
Amazing.
Because of that.
So there's another question. Do you have any more community? I know there's some people that have thrown out marketing ideas, like going to your realtor and leaving kind of like a candy bowl, or going out to, putting billboards up. What are some other community things that you do that help to motivate your leads?
Sure.
You have so many of them. So
yeah, exactly. But again, it's so the way I look at it and the way I'm approaching it is that what's the number one reason why we put a fence in residential? And that's our number one reason is for the dogs. I mean, you would think that kids are, in the top, 2 or 3, and really it's dogs, and I can't stand my neighbor. I mean, that's those are the top 2 reasons. Kids are about number 5 on why I need a fence. I mean, really, it's kind of a strange phenomenon. And so what I'm working on right now, and I haven't approached them yet, so I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag here. I should say dog out of the bag, because I am looking to go to the Humane Society and offer upgrade credits on anyone that adopts a dog that has a fence or needs a fence, to where I can offer that. And I would like to put that into a kind of like a foundation or so. Under my mother was a huge animal lover. And she used to always say, hey, I have to have this fence because my, she couldn't afford it. And I need this fence because my kids don't come over and help me. And she always gives us this, God bless her soul. But yeah, so I want to go to the humane societies and ask them if and say, listen, we'll give them some up. Again, we can't do it for free. Right. But if they have a fence or they need a fence, we would give them some upgrade credits. If they were to adopt a dog, and that maybe help them if they are trying to adopt a dog. They said, well, we got to put a fence in, or we're going to do that. Then, well, hey, give us a call. We will come over there and work something out with you to try to get you, even if it's a smaller playpen or something like that for the dogs. And they're yeah. So that's one of the things, because like I said, my mother, that was the one thing that she really loved her animals, really did.
See, that's super amazing, because there are so many people that want to adopt, or they don't have the yard, or they have the yard, but they don't have the fence. So at least you are taking one of those things off of the list. And if they have a yard, I mean, what better opportunity to go ahead and go to your Humane Society? How many people just go to the Humane Society and volunteer, or they'll go ahead and give stuff to the Humane Society? So you can definitely have your flyers out there, or maybe even another sign, or maybe they can name it a Humane Society building from you as well.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, really, I tell you what, and again, just like the little league field, that's not what it's more about something something to honor my mom, who I couldn't imagine. She it was a very, obviously, as you can imagine, a pet peeve of hers to see a dog on a chain. So if somebody was, if they were adopting because they couldn't, because my goodness, these dogs, I cannot believe how much dogs are nowadays. They were always given to us.
Yeah.
But to see a dog on a chain is just, it's heartbreaking. So, I
It
mean,
is.
if we can give back in that, I mean, if they want to name a building after me, I'm not going to deny it, but that's not, we're obviously not looking for something like that.
Right. No, I think that is such a great idea. I never even thought about that really whatsoever, to go ahead and approach them. And this is why I like your way of thinking, is because this is out of the box thinking. And sometimes we need to do the out of the box thinking when it comes
Yeah.
to marketing, because a lot of people get used to the same thing over and over again. Sometimes social media, we kind of like doing the same thing, but the Humane Society, that is super amazing. I never even thought about that at all. So
Yeah, I hope they're receptive. I haven't went to them yet. That's what I was saying about letting the dog out of the bag. I haven't went to them yet. I don't see why they would have any issue with that.
Right.
I can guarantee you they're going to open you with open arms, just because of the fact that we kind of do the same thing, and they're always constantly looking for, fence or dog crates or enclosures and stuff like that. So absolutely, it's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And I mean, yeah, that's why that was one of what I was looking at next. I definitely, and really it was more to give back and to honor my late mother is what that,
Yeah.
And see, that's what I like about you, Jason, is that you're not really looking. See, I don't think you even thought about that whole entire, like, how it would end. You just did it out of the kindness of your heart. And sometimes when you do things out of the kindness of your heart, you get the biggest rewards. So, and not only that, that just keeps rewarding you. Plus, you get to go ahead and pass by that field. Didn't you say you pass by it every single day?
We go by quite a bit. I mean, they call me every year. They've already called and said, hey, we got, new project for this year. We did, we do something for them almost every year for sure. And again, they don't expect, I try to give them the best price possible. They don't expect anything for free. But I understand that. I mean, everyone down there is donating, it's almost a second job when and then in return, we've, all the little leagues in the area, we've pretty much worked with them, on some level. The local one that I was part of, I haven't done anything with them yet. But the surrounding ones, we've done some fields for another local one, and then we're doing some batting cages now for even another little league.
It's amazing how when you get one thing, then somebody else tells another, somebody tells somebody else, somebody tells somebody else, and then before you know it, yes.
Yeah.
Do your kids play ball as well, or are they little?
It's funny is because my son played, we had my daughter and my son to let them experience it. And before long, both of them would rather be in the concession stand, selling the sodas and pretzels than
those entrepreneurs.
Than out playing baseball. Yes, especially my son. He said, Dad, I'd rather be in there selling pretzels. If that's, okay, bud.
Good for them. It gets them out there in the field. Growing up, we also, all of my siblings played a lot of soccer. So I have really good memories of being out in the field of doing everything.
So it is so, I just have so much sympathy for anyone that volunteers at like the little league down there. Soccer, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, takes a lot of time to do that.
Yeah.
Yes. My kids are so old, I don't even remember going back to those. So, what are some things that you've been thinking about besides the honoring your mom for that? And sometimes, and this goes back to your why, right? That was your why, to go ahead and honor your mom, and this is why you went to the dog kennels or to the adoptions. Right. So, what are some other things that you've been pondering for marketing?
Just to make sure that, obviously, so in my area, some aren't like this, but in my area, I have to be licensed in every town and city, in every county that I'm going to work in. So I have to bond for the county, and then every city I have to have a license. So basically just going to them and letting them know that, hey, You don't have, I understand that, it can be tough, times can be tough, but if you need fencing, especially because a lot of time your parks departments takes care of cemeteries. And that's, again, that's true to people's hearts. And, give us a call. Let us at least give you an idea, a quote on that, on something like that. So really just making sure that every city that I apply for, that I see all these great workers, because most all of them are awesome people. And just say, hey, listen, if you have projects that are coming up, give us an opportunity to give you a bid on there, and I guarantee it's probably going to be less than hiring other people that don't have the compassion possibly that maybe we do.
Yeah.
Right. And are those people that you go to the building to go ahead and get the licensing at, or do you just see them out in the community and just stop them by and say, "Hey, I'm Jason Smith and I'm with." So I
Yeah.
can see you doing that though. I could. Jason.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that, parades are really, that's really big to be part of. People look at it, well, you're trying to boast in your business, but what they don't realize is that you pay to be in the parade. So
Yeah.
that revenue, I'm saying, that helps them, right? That, that it's not much, but it's still giving back and giving some, even though it takes a lot of time and dedication to put a float together and be in the parade. But still, I mean, you have to pay. They want you to pay for that, and that helps them, right? That helps them, with your festivities and stuff, especially in the summertime that we all love and enjoy.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. You do have to pay for those as well. Sometimes you have to go ahead and donate a little bit more just because you want to go ahead and help out the community. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you would say, like, somebody would like to go ahead and get involved with their community? I know that you stated that you have to go ahead and get a licensing. So in some of locations we don't. How would you help somebody approach like a volunteer position?
Yeah. So definitely so believe it or not, there's however many billion people in this world, and they're all on social media. So utilizing social media on the pages and just being, not soliciting your business, but soliciting your assistance, and say, hey, listen, maybe you can even do something, before the Humane Society idea, of trying to help them out, because I think we'll help more people. We were going to say, go to the community and say, hey, have the city, possibly find somebody that's deserving of a fence, kind of like my, how my mother was, you guys are too busy to come over and put my fence together. So, I'm gonna have to hire somebody. She would tell me, maybe choose somebody in the community that needs that, their only friend is their dog, right? Is their animal, their only friend. So maybe you can go to the city and say, hey, I want to help them. I want to help them and do a fence or a kennel or some kind of a dog run for them. And then that's a good way of getting your name out there to say, hey, they're compassionate. They're wanting to help. You don't have to go out and put a, $20,000 fence in, but I mean, just something to where this deserving person can open the door and let their dog out, and that because that's their companion, their best friend. I mean, our dogs are our best friends.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. So I have 3. So
yeah.
Yes,
And I mean,
You
can you
have
imagine
3 dogs?
yeah.
And I bet you don't have to put them on a leash. I bet you don't have to, take all 3 of them, walking each time. I'm sure you can open the door and just let them out the backyard.
Oh, so are you trying to say that my husband put up a fence?
Well, kind of like they say about the mechanics have the worst car, right? Well, I don't want you to come and look at my fence.
Right.
But my wife has she has high-end taste. So we're working our way up to the a little bit higher end fence.
See, I've got a wood fence. He did put in a wood fence, but I wanted a vinyl. I'm going to, hopefully I can go ahead and convince him to put in a vinyl. But yes, you're right. Definitely. It's very easy to go ahead and just open up the door and let them go outside and then come back inside whenever they want to come. So I definitely agree. A fence would be a great opportunity for somebody to have a friend forever. And sometimes they're emotional support animals.
Yes.
So
yeah. So that's what I would say is see if you can find somebody and go to your towns, and say, hey, I'm looking for, start with one a year. And you can say, hey, I'm looking to do. And if you do own a business, maybe you have enough scraps to where you can go out and put that fence up for somebody for at a very low cost, or a run to where they're deserving of it, right? And they just don't have the money, but that is their best friend. I mean, my mother's best friend was her dogs. I mean, that's for sure. So and that's a great way to get in the community and get into the cities to say, hey, we know that this, and then and get them on the list and say, hey, I know you only do one a year. This is who it is, but next year, could you look at this? I mean, it won't take long for you to be that guy that helps the community out, for sure, 100%.
And then they'll call you every time. So that is fantastic. There is one thing that you had mentioned before we started talking, and so this was the first time that you met Yadira, and then when Brian came on and he said hello right at the beginning. So and you had stated something about, what was it, the insurance, right?
Yes, the FWA insurance.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I was so happy to hear about it.
Yeah, we took advantage of that. It's something that the fence industry, I think Brian's seen a need for that in the fence industry. And I looked into, providing a healthcare plan for our employees. And we didn't budget for that. So I would have to wait until next year in order to do something. But when we looked into it, it's very reasonable. The buy-up, the elite plan, is very reasonable. It doesn't, and every one of my guys, I have 7 employees, and every one of them took advantage of that, of it. They did, and they've already used it. So yeah, and it's reasonably expensive. I think for the month, maybe $250 for the month for a minor medical plan, to where you can go to urgent cares, and you can go to doctor visits, and you can also your medicine is that's a big part, right? I know my wife she needs thyroid medicine. She has her thyroid was removed when she was 19. So I mean, so I couldn't imagine what what that would be. So yeah, take advantage if you need medical insurance for 100%. The FWA has been, I mean, what an honor. It's been great.
I love that. Thank you for that. And the larger the network that we grow, the better rates we can negotiate. So we're always encouraging people to join the network, because it's only going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And our the gentleman that reached out, I think his name was Brett, Brett. He's been very helpful. He was really good. And if we had any issues, he said, do it as through this way, and this is how it works, and really good. So yeah, it's the insurance. I was so pleased after I got the quote from the other company on that knowing that I can offer it now, and I don't have to wait a year.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think the reason I went ahead and brought it up is because Brian went ahead and seen a need in his group or his company, and then he was able to share it to everybody else. And so everybody else is now partaking in it, and it seems like a really great deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to go ahead and thank you so much for coming on and just being a part of your community, because it's so hard to be a company and to try to get all these leads, but what better way to go ahead and contribute to your community? And sometimes they have those Christmas parades, or those Christmas where you can go ahead and drop off gifts, or you can go ahead and wrap gifts. So I know that what we do is that we set out our wood outside, because a lot of people like to go ahead and do some crafts, and wood can be kind of expensive, especially when it was really, really expensive. Mm-hmm. And we just put it outside for somebody to take it, and that has really helped as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. If I had a bigger spot, I know I talked with James, before about that, and if I had a bigger spot, I would. I feel terrible when I mean, even if it's a little scrap piece that we cut off, that I'm like, I'm sure somebody could use
I
this
know.
somewhere, you know, but again, the city has regulations, so it's not like you
Yeah.
can't just pile it up there and leave it. I mean, so you do have to be mindful of the regulations of the city.
Right, exactly. You stated that you also work with home builders or building whenever they build new sections in your community.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
how did you get in touch with them? Because those are usually the harder individuals because they have like bigger companies somewhere else, so it's hard to get a hold of them.
Yeah. So what I would do is, you know, there's always local developers. And right now I work exclusively with two developers, very nice, you know, subdivisions. You know, some of your larger companies, just like you said, Monica, very difficult to work with them
Mhm.
because maybe they have their own, but your local contractors, you can get in there and you can offer assistance. And again, most of these guys understand and they know that, hey, you don't have to do it for free. You know, you can give them a reasonable bid, and as long as you stand behind your work as we do, and we take care of them first. You know, that they're the ones that taking care, because they're, you know, full subdivisions. You're talking not 100 feet or not 20, you know, they're, when they do something, it's, you know, 700 feet or it's 500 feet. And that's something that you want to make sure that you know you're part of, and that you can put a good bid in when
Yeah.
needed. Not that you're going to let anybody else fall to the wayside, but yeah. So definitely, I would start with your local smaller contractors that are actually not your big conglomerates.
Okay. And Jadida, I know that you work with not residential. You have what is it? Business, more contracting, more commercial, right?
We do a lot of mostly commercial. Yeah.
So Benji was saying, great way to go ahead and put your foot in the door for local development. So yeah, definitely. And that happens to be going on a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have a lot of people starting to build communities, and I always wonder, I'm like, I wonder how can we get a hold of it. I'm the type of person that just drives by and sees somebody like putting up a fence or something. I'm like, hi, how are you doing? You know, it's like, what's your name? What company do you work for? So
My sister was just telling me, because she works in the front office with us, and she says, it's really nice to just have somebody from like local, just like stop by and bring a bag of bagels. I'm like, that's something like super easy. You can just do and stop by. When you know somebody, when you know the other companies in town, or when you know your local builder, it's something that people remember. And the fact that she actually remembered that, or brought that up, she's like, yeah, it brings a memory to whatever day or whatever that she when somebody like does something like that.
that is super amazing. I never even thought about that. I know that sometimes when you have community, right, and then you have like 2 or 3 people or 4 that are bidding within the same um, for the same job, sometimes it feels like you're competing with each other. Well, you are competing with each other. I was just trying to make it sound really, really nice, right? But if you go over and you say hello, or yeah, like maybe take them bagels to your competition, maybe that would be great too.
Yeah, because you never know when you're going to need something, when you're going to need a part to finish that job, or right. You know what I mean? So you have to have that, that closeness with the people that are in your community.
I agree. So when you have other people bidding with you, do you have conversations with them? You're like, hey, what's going on? Whenever they stop by, Jason, or you're driving by and they're at a local, let's say, putting up a fence, do you say hello to them?
Actually, it's funny you say that, because I was just driving by a company that was taking a fence down, and and I stopped, yes, and I spun the truck around. And it was just today. I spun the truck around and said, hey, I said, are you guys fence builders? They said, yeah, we are. And I said, okay. I said, and then I asked them what and I know they work for a local company that's actually, I know that the gentleman's getting ready to retire. He's at his end of his fencing career. So I asked him, I said, I said, what were you guys doing? He goes, I don't know if I'm gonna buy the place and I said, okay. I said, well, I'm probably one of the only ones in the area. I said, I don't dig holes for fencing. He's like, what? He goes, I've heard of this. And I said, you've only heard of it? You've only heard of not digging holes? I said, of no dig? I said, you install fences? I said, oh, okay. So I showed him a couple. He's like, wow. And he's like, man, let me get your number. So yeah, when I see people, out installing fences or working on fences, I will stop and ask them and talk to them. But one of the things about like your local, there's local housing complexes and stuff that go up that, people buy, 20, contractors. And definitely, I would say, if you can get out there, sometimes they have lift stations that they have to, box around. There's garbage enclosures. Those are always really good to help get your foot in the door, to say, hey, this is what the work that we can do. Maybe you can do a small job like that at a little bit of a lower rate, and then say, hey, just give me first option to bid, or at least let your community know as they're coming in that please give us opportunity. Well, because a lot of people don't want to have to call 4 or 5 people. Some people, they love that they want to get, I want to get 3 bids, and those 3 bids better be in writing. But a lot of people, they're busy. We're busy, they're busy. So the speed of quoting is highly important. So yeah, that's, and really with the builders that we have, they kind of called us. I did have the upper hand, so they kind of called us on that. But again, I offer the first one. I work with them well. Whatever changes, one gentleman said, that's I had to go back and redo the entire fence line because he didn't like where it was at. But I'm not going to argue with it. We'll do it, no problem. And guess what? Every job now, he doesn't even, hey, here it is, give me the bid, and they don't even check with anybody else. Not that my prices are set to us. Yeah. But you got to develop that relationship 100%. How people buy from people they know, they like, and they trust.
Very true.
You have to be known, you have to be liked, and you have to be trusted. How do you find that? How do you get that? Well, the relationship.
I definitely agree. And also the other companies, if you're friends with them, or if you're just at least you're acknowledging them, sometimes they get booked, right? So who are they going to refer them? They're going to refer them to you.
Yeah.
Yes. My one of my direct suppliers for vinyl and aluminum is a competitor. They supply and they install. And yes, there's an area that I don't cover that I refer him to. And in return, he refers most of his wood jobs to me.
There you go.
Yes, most of his wood. And then, they would prefer to do vinyl. I do it all. It doesn't matter to me. But we do a lot of wood.
Yeah.
Partnerships makes the world go round, really. Honestly, when you know somebody that knows somebody, and then you have such a great rapport with them, they're going to refer you on. And that's really what it counts. And then especially since you have that really great person to person type of culture, right? Because a lot of people want to go ahead and use the phone or answering machine. I'll just let it go to the machine. And if they get you on the phone, and if we let that go to the machine, you're more than likely going to go ahead and be able to do that estimate first and get out there first. So
yeah. Speed of the estimate is highly important. It is.
Definitely. Well, I think we are at our time, and we appreciate you being with us. I mean, we can't thank you enough. I love that story, and I'm so glad now that you've gone ahead and told it to everybody else.
Well,
it's a great opportunity.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure. It really has, and I appreciate you having me on, honestly.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Is there any announcements you want to make, Tavita?
No, other than we'll see you guys. Are you going to be at the Indiana or the CMM's event Friday?
So I will not be at the CM. I was scheduled to be there. Problem is I have to. We're transferring our camping sites, so we're moving from Plymouth to Monticello. It's not a far move, but that has to be done this Friday. And this Friday is the CMM event. So I will have 2 employees from Lee Laren there. They work well with Sean. They're going to be there with to help, to assist Sean King, because they're really good at the vinyl no dig. So they'll be there. They'll probably be there. They should be there in our gear, and they should be helping Sean, kind of teach everyone the no dig for vinyl.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Are you going to be there, Jadida?
I was going to, but I have a couple of doctor's appointments on Thursday and Friday. So Brian will actually be out there Thursday, Friday, and flies back Saturday. So we will have representation there. I just myself cannot be there this time.
Okay. I will be there, so I'll make sure that they have those shirts on.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So,
Yep,
yes.
Jake and Bobby. I see James is saying he'll be there as well. So
yes,
he'll be looking. Yep, James, and actually James met Bobby and Jake, so he knows the two gentlemen I have coming in for help.
Fantastic, awesome. And then just one more thing, that if anybody would like to go ahead and sponsor our retreat, we are looking for sponsors. So just letting you guys know that we're open to that. And if anybody has any questions in regards to how can you go ahead and be a sponsor, then just go ahead and send us a DM, and then somebody will get back to you.
Any one of us. Yeah,
exactly. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you, Yadira, for being my partner. And we appreciate everybody, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, guys. Have a great night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Night.